We are going to do a liver class today. Woo! So it's the liver and the gallbladder. And we're going to start in butterfly. So for butterfly, you're going to bring the bottoms of your feet together and you're going to have your feet about 2 hands length away from your groin. You can grab onto your shins when you're ready. And then lift up your chest, drop your head back, take a full inhale. And with your exhale, start to roll down, letting your head come towards your feet. Take a full breath in, and with your exhale, just sigh it out and feel your body get softer and relax. So in every pose, we find the shape that's right for our body. We come into it, and as soon as our body starts to resist the pose, that's where you kind of hang out and let everything relax. So just enough yang or engagement to stay in the pose. And then for every yin pose, we want to be mindful that once we've become still and soft in the pose, we're going to stay. And it's going to be around 5 minutes for every posture, but sometimes that 5 minutes feels like 17, and sometimes it feels like nearly no time. And it's definitely always kind of ish, so I'm not like, I don't have a timer that goes off every 5 minutes, but I'm pretty attentive to the clock. So take a full inhale, maybe sigh out again, and notice if you're soften even more to that pose. And just take a couple of breaths and allow yourself to arrive here now on your mat. Notice how your thinking has been so far today. Noticing that sometimes we are very focused, other times we are dreamy, sometimes we think about the same thing over and over again. Other days we seem to have creative, original thinking going on. And allow yourself a couple of breaths to lead your attention from your thinking into your feeling. And this realm of the watery feelings are so fascinating to keep, checking back in and noticing, because we often have kind of a layer of our feelings that are very obvious and immediate and right here, right now. And yet sometimes we can really detect that we'll have underlying emotions that maybe move a little bit more slowly, that are maybe a little bit more patterned or a little deeper in our biography, even in our feeling life. And then with your inhale, start to roll up. And we're going to come into to shoelace. So you're going to bring your right knee over your left knee. I always kind of feel like my feet would be the ends of the shoelace, and you can pull them tight. Sometimes there's a lot of space between your two knees. Sometimes your knees are right on top of each other. Just has to do with how tight you are on your hips. Then take your hands next to your hips and just slide your butt back and start to roll over your right knee, bringing either your chest towards your knee, your chin in front of your knee, or your forehead to your knee. And again, take a nice full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. And sometimes I feel like I really do feel like that water in a yin pose where you have to let your body settle into the pose. You let everything settle into the pose. So you get the form there, and then you get, the softness, the attention. Usually with attention, you also notice tension. And with your next couple breaths, explore how you're feeling in your body today. So the sensation life rather than just the emotional life. And we notice, what's injured or what's feeling really strong. We often don't notice as much as what's injured. But then we also notice a basic kind of energy in our body. If we could imagine we're animated by a candle flame, is it roaring today or is it kind of flickering and trying to stay lit? Notice if you can actually let go into the pose a little bit more as you stay, allowing the heaviness to be in your body. As our body settles, as our attention stays here, as we notice the rhythm of our breath, we can notice something relaxed that's different than when we're running around and fixing everything. The different irritants of Mercury being retrograde, of complex relationships, of work and challenges can just kind of fade into the background. And I don't say to push them away because we really want to invite all of the mess onto our mat. But it can be quiet. It's not what we're paying attention to right now. So the liver is the yin organ paired with the yang gallbladder. In anthroposophy, the liver is connected to the planet Jupiter, while the gallbladder is connected to Mars. The Mars is so closely connected to the like primal energy of yang. And it's so connected to masculinity that we use the symbol of Mars to mean men. With your next inhale, start to walk your hands closer towards you, roll up. And we're going to take our right leg and we're going to sweep it behind us. I like to tuck my toes under and push with my heel. And maybe I sometimes have to adjust, taking my left knee a little bit more to the left. Then stretch out your right foot. And we're going to come forward into sleeping swan. So you walk your hands out. Bring your forehead down to the ground. Maybe your hands are in prayer. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, sigh out. Now, while Jupiter isn't as immediately connected for everybody to masculinity or yang like Mars is, it's very much got a positive masculine energy. And one of the things we connect to Jupiter is that whenever Jupiter is in the relationship with other planets, with other archetypes, it expands. It's an archetype. Jupiter is an archetype of expansion, more, becoming greater. So when we couple these two together, Mars and Jupiter, it's this amplification of this primordial energy, this masculine kind of beginner of things. So as an organ pair, that theme permeates how they work in our body too. The gallbladder and our liver. When in traditional Chinese medicine, of course, they're not so much talking about the planets as they talk about the elements. And the liver and gallbladder organ pair here, especially the liver, is connected to the wood element. So whether we think of wood or we think of this relationship of Mars and Jupiter, we get, or even if we just take a moment and think about the name, the liver, or the bladder that gives you gall, which can be kind of this like really intense, like courage. Gall in olden days was used the way, unfortunately, now we say like, oh, you had the balls to do that. Some people say, yes, she had the ovaries to do that, but that kind of like chutzpah, huevos, the same thing, different language, but it is this very like rousing energy. And when we think of so gall and liver both talk about that, and then we think of Mars and Jupiter, and it echoes that impetus, this possibility of growth. And then that too is, of course, echoed and given more picture when we think of the element of wood. Wood is such a living substance that even after you've cut down a tree and you're building cabinets in a nice little, white picket fenced home, the wood still moves in response to the environment, still has this kind of life force in it. Think about touching a piece of wood versus touching a stone. There's even a difference in temperature, even after it's been taken from the tree. So when we see these different indications, it comes as no surprise that the liver is referred to in traditional Chinese medicine as the general of the army. You know what general does is it kind of coordinates the movement of things or directs the movement of things. Now, just notice how your breath is moving for 5 breaths before we move out of this pose. Maybe noticing if it feels different now than when you first came into it, and what movement in your body has precipitated that change, or what movement in your experience. And then after your 5th breath, inhale, lift up. And we do that lovely thing where we just roll onto our left buttocks. And so we're long ways on the yoga mat. We have about 90-ish degrees between both thighs. And then we're going to start by lifting up tall, and we're going to go straight down the middle. So it's like straddled with one of your legs bent. Your heel comes about your belly button. I mean, not quite, but nearly massaging your liver. Let your head drop. Let yourself soften down into the pose. You might be able to hold your head here. Or maybe you can lay all the way down to the ground, somewhere in between. Take a full breath, and with your exhale, just sigh it out through your mouth. Feel how you respond to that breath, to that moment, to that movement. To this pose. So a lot of what the liver is, so when we talk about these yin yang pairs, the yang organ is often just really connected to the physical stuff it does in the body. And so, for instance, the gallbladder, it like collects the gall, and releases it when it's needed. Especially, breaks down fat in digestion. But it's the liver that not only has these incredible things in charge physically in the body, but also that it more directly affects our energy, our emotions, our thinking, even our spiritual path. And with your next inhale, lift up. And then we're going to twist a couple times, maybe throwing your elbows up high for a little ska feeling, or maybe putting your fingers in front of your shoulders for a little kundalini feeling. And then twist over your extended leg and bow down, bringing your forehead towards your right knee. Let everything be soft. There's no must, so you don't have to get anywhere. Even if you're just twisting and dropping your chin down, you're ready on your way. You're ready in the pose. Take a full breath in, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. So physically in the body, we know that the liver kind of filters things and detoxes and nourishes and replenishes and rebuilds things. It also is closely connected to the peripheral nervous system, which regulates your muscular activity. Yeah, and I already said it has a key component. Like, we're so used to noticing, like, or giving homage to the liver, because it is this amazing organ that protects us from toxins in our environment by detoxing, but also where it builds us back up again as well. Especially like It builds proteins that help in the rest of the body with growth and repair. And with your next inhale, roll up. And we're going to bring our right leg back around here, bringing the bottoms of our feet together. And we're going to come back into reclining. It's reclining butterfly or yin fish. Because, fish don't really recline, do they? Let your head drop back. We're going to stay about half the time with our elbows here and our head hanging freely. And you can feel the weight of your skull actually kind of, the cradling is like massaging your trapezius muscles, which are right at the top of your shoulders here. And then halfway through, we're going to let our elbows slide out to the side. But if you need to come down with your torso to the ground before I tell you to, feel free. You are the co-creator with me of your practice right now. So the liver really has a role that one of its roles is to smooth out the way the energy flows in our body, the way the chi moves in our body, this life force. In Vedic tradition, the life force, the chi, is referred to as prana, and also we refer to our breath as prana. So really notice as you take a couple of deep breaths how it affects the energy in your body. And then when you're ready, let your elbows slide out to the side, your upper body coming down to the ground. And we're going to bring our hands into a mudra. So you're going to bring your thumbs together and your index fingers together. And then you're going to stretch out the other fingers. And you're going to bring your hands right to where your head and the ground meet. So we're doing this anger releasing pose and mudra. This not only refers to or is honoring one of the ways that the liver expresses itself as not doing well is by being angry. So this is an anger removing pose, but also we're right now, actually there are a ton of planets that are retrograde, but the one we are most sensitive to is our dear Mercury. Went retrograde on the 9th of September, and it's going to station direct on the 2nd of October. But anger is most intimately tied to our liver. And we can notice it in small ways in most of our biographies. Maybe you had an amazing party and you were out celebrating all night, and the next day you are reminded of your humanity with a hangover. Or maybe you even just notice that you don't feel so great, but you just don't have as much patience as normal or much flexibility as normal. So your anger can flare up much more easily. Women also get a little extra school in our liver because when during our cycle at certain times, like when we're PMSing and during our cycle, our liver is taxed in a different way by the elevated levels, I believe, of progesterone. But we know this intuitively, even if we're not, assigning the biochemistry to it. We know that we have a little shorter fuse, or we can get we're quick to react with indignation or offense. And we might even notice what they say in Chinese medicine is that when we are angry, it disturbs the flow of our qi, of course, and our qi gets stuck in our chest and the blood rushes to our head. You can see people actually like turning red in the face when they're really, really angry. Now, with your next inhale, you're going to take your hands to your heart center. Like a little sapling, you're going to sprout your hands and stretch your arms straight up to the sky. And then you're going to lift up your feet and you're going to see that beautiful pointy oval of light, and you're going to dive forward. And then we're going to sweep we're sweeping nothing. We're sweeping our left knee over our right knee. And we're going to come into the other side of shoelace. So you might want to get up onto your knees, wiggle your knees together, and then sit back down. This will give you a nicer, more comfortable bind or twist here. Inhale, lift up tall, and with your exhale, start to roll down. First, our chin comes towards our chest. Then eventually we can bring our forehead to our knee. Then maybe our chin. Then maybe our chest. But it's different for most of us here with different biographies. We could even say different livers. Or that our biography lives in our liver. Which may, of course, be debatable to us, but in traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is credited the enormous role of being the seat of our eternal soul. And it's not even just eternal, it's the ethereal eternal soul. So the ethereal means that it's the soul without a body, without substance. It's of the ethers. It's such a joy to kind of learn about archetypes and learn how the rich history of Chinese medicine has truths in it that we can understand not only through studying Chinese medicine, of course, but we can actually understand when we're studying the archetypes, when we study, mythologies from different peoples. We recognize that there is something in the liver. You hear it in the language. But for instance, this story of Prometheus, the lover of humans, we could call him. The story of Prometheus, or one of the stories of Prometheus, starts at the way, way beginning of time, when all the gods actually, at first, when humans were created, the gods hung out with them. And, as the Greek gods did, they were partying and having fun and hanging out. And this was wonderful until Zeus just kind of tired of them and kicked them out. So gods stopped hanging out with humans. And Zeus just the gods are so different from how we imagine God nowadays, or the divine nowadays. They were petty and reactionary and kind of small. With your next inhale, start to roll your chest up. And then we're going to sweep. A lot of sweeping going on, cleaning house. We're going to sweep our left leg back. So I like to tuck my toes under it and I push with my heel, and then I stretch my toes straight back so my foot's not sickled or hooked at all. And then walk your hands forward, bringing your forehead down to the ground. Hands come together in prayer, eventually coming into swan pose, sleeping swan. So while Zeus was like busy getting annoyed with humans, um, Prometheus, he felt great compassion for them. And he found himself drawn to them, wanted to be of service to this, incredible experiment that was going on. And so he decided that he was gonna, like, he actually like stole a ray of sunlight from the sunrise and carefully brought it down to earth in a green plant, so the story goes, and then taught the human beings how they can actually start a fire with a ray of sunlight. What this did was Prometheus ends up being the one who brings warmth to humanity. And it starts with this warmth, but then it becomes this amazing power. Just think of all of the things that changed with fire. We received more light in the darkness. So warmth and light. And then fire, it was transformative, cooking food, melting these really hard substances so you could make tools. The history keeps going and going, and still, even if it's in its transformed forms, it is essential to our progress, to how we live. Right now in Sweden, of course, as a lot of places, the electricity bills are out of control, and you start to become so much more aware than maybe 3 years ago of how much our whole life is electrified. So Zeus got annoyed that Prometheus had taught them how to use the sun and essentially how to make tools. How, like, Prometheus really had given humans this incredible power. And it irritated Zeus. He woke up one day, and I don't know if you know this much about Zeus, but he was really, you could say, whimsical in some ways. But one day he'd be like celebrating this hero for his achievements. The next day he's like punishing this other hero for their achievements. But he got irritated with Prometheus, how he'd helped the humans. And so he was like, Prometheus, you have to make this up to me. You have to, pay homage to me. Now, Prometheus, maybe maybe he is like one of the first hero archetypes. So an adolescent boy in a way. He heard Zeus, and it looked like he was doing the right things. It looked like he was, really giving a sacrifice back to Zeus, humbling himself by offering this animal up to Zeus for basically for his forgiveness or blessing, you could say. But Prometheus, was a little sneaky, and he did slay a bull, but then he took out all the meat and sewed and smoothed the bull back together and offered it to Zeus, empty of its flesh. He'd taken the flesh and he'd given it to the humans to feast. Now slowly come up, walking one hand at a time up towards your knee. Let your chest lift up. And then this time we're going to roll to the right. So you're long on your yoga mat. about 90 degrees between your thighs. If you're like sitting behind your hips, you can always put a book underneath your hips so you can help your hips roll forward. And this gives you a little bit more freedom here. And then walk yourself, bowing your head down. Now, needless to say, Zeus was pissed. How dare he? How dare he do something so disgraceful and insulting? You know, nobody likes when they've been tricked, especially not Zeus. And he was so mad that he chained Prometheus to a crag, to a stony peak, a rock, the top of a mountain. Like that wasn't bad enough. He chained him and then he stuck a stake through his side and sent a bird every day to eat Prometheus's liver. And then every night in the unconscious, the liver would build back up and be renewed. And the next day, it would start all over again. The bird would come and eat his liver. And then it would grow back at night. And then again, the bird would come and eat his liver. Needless to say, this went on for years and years and years. There's another story about how Chiron actually took his place and freed Prometheus. But that is a story for another day. But this secret kind of teachings that we have in mythology and creation stories and fables that we carry with us. The bird came and ate the liver up and it regrew overnight. You know, whether we look at that as what happens in our sleep or what happens from lifetime to lifetime, we are being told something, that we need our liver to live. That this is, I mean, you knew this already. I won't pretend this is new information. But there's something transformative about death and about sleep that allows us to come back to life, allows us to come back and have another opportunity to meet the world differently. But it's this movement from death to rebirth, from waking to sleeping, sleeping to waking. Directing these life forces, conducting where they need to go. Notice if you can soften a little bit more, even in intensity. And then start to walk your hands back towards you. Inhale, lift up. And then we're going to do a little dance. Or maybe you're going to do another Kundalini homage. Kundalini is a very, very masculine, energetically speaking practice. Maybe it's appropriate here. And then twist your belly button over your beautiful left leg and bow over your leg. Your hands relax next to your leg. Take a full inhale with your exhale, sigh it out. And notice your body listens to you. So, not surprising is, of course, when our liver is out of balance, we have this, it's like it pulls more anger into us, or we experience more anger. But when our liver is healthy and the energy connected to our liver and our gallbladder, and our body is balanced in that way, what it actually amplifies in the human being is our capacity to be kind. And kindness also requires this tenacity, this will and vitality in the present moment to really be kindness. We can be nice, even absent-mindedly or habitually, like being polite, for instance. But real kindness, whether it is towards others or even to this otherness we can experience in meeting ourselves sometimes, this real kindness takes this it needs this life force, this will to be acted upon, to yeah, you have to notice what is needed in the present moment. And usually you have to call on your will forces that go maybe against what would just be easy or comfortable or nice for you. And it's these acts of anger or of kindness that play such a huge role in shaping not only our lifetime today, but our next lifetime also. Inhale, start to roll up. And you can stretch your legs out in front of you and just wiggle them around a little bit. And then we're going to move into Sphinx. So a little movement often helps the fragileness of a posture dissipate. And then we're going to come into Sphinx. So you have your elbows just slightly in front of your shoulders. Your legs can be comfortably wide if your lower back's okay with it. If your lower back is sensitive, you can bring your legs closer together. You can even let your elbows move out away from you so that your ribs come down to the ground. You can take your shoulders, you can lift them up and then pull them down a little bit. And then drop your head, drop your chin to your chest and let the back of your neck stretch out a little bit here. So a little bit like bowing down towards the ground with your head. So real kindness often has to, it has to do with the individual or what the person, where they're at right now, what they need right now. So we can't make one rule for every situation. What is kindness? It is something that we end up being creative with in the right way, in the right moment. And kindness and anger are these they're relationship shaping things, as we are as humans. We're transformers. We transform the food we eat, we transform the stuff you know we come in contact. Look around you, you've got things made out of wood, out of metal, out of all sorts of weird things now. But we change each other when we meet each other. And we can do that with anger or, frustration or violence. But we can also do it with kindness, with generosity, with compassion. We do it either way. We change each other. And this thing of it's this living field of life. You know, there's a reason you're not alone here in the world. There's no reason to have morality if it's just you. You only need that once you're there. There is another human. There is another being. So it's these times, these moments, these meetings, these little things or big things, all of them matter, that shape our karma. What starts to, live in us, what meets us in our next life, what meets us next week. It always makes me think when I talk about karma, you have to talk about Buddha's 5 remembrances. With anger, it's also, the liver it's passionate. And, anger is often pointing to being hurt. And these relationships are often where we feel pain and suffering and the hurt, causes of our anger. And even jealousy, for instance, I kind of connect a little bit to the liver because it's an anger in my book. And what I found for myself was this Buddha's 5 remembrances is such an exquisite practice to help dissipate my own. Sometimes it's like anger about anger or jealousy, or even fear, fear of the unknown, like when you worry too much, I guess you would say. I find this meditation such a salve. And I'm going to read it as it was written down by beautiful, lovely, late Thich Nhat Hanh. I am of the nature to grow old. There's no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There's no way to escape ill health. I am of the nature to die. There's no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are the nature of change. There's no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequence of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Now start to lower yourself down to the yoga mat. You can wiggle your hips side to side here. You can even, scissor. You can even, bend your knees and windshield wiper your legs back and forth. And then I want you to actually roll over. So you can bring your left arm under and roll over. You might have to scoot back onto your yoga mat. I'm straining you, not a super big yoga mat. And we're going to come here into banana asana. So you stretch your legs long. Find your alignment on the yoga mat first. And then you're going to move your right heel out to the right. And then you're going to bring your left heel over your right ankle. Or if that's too much, you can always just bring your feet right next to each other. And then stretch your arms over your head and grab onto your left wrist and pull your left arm to your right. So in Yin Yoga, this is called banana asana. we know that if we were standing up, this posture really looks like crescent moon. And what it's doing is really stretching your whole side body. So that Buddha's 5 remembrances, it sounds quite harsh at first, but this, when you treat it like a mantra or meditation, it can really be an act of kindness to yourself, because you don't fight the things that we're never going to win at, you know? So if we think of back to Mars and Jupiter, another way to understand Mars and Jupiter together is the expansion of the fight. You know, Mars is this primordial like masculinity, but it's this fiery nature. It's like act first, ask later, you know, very impulsive and reactive, seeing red. And it's really only tempered in its relationship to other archetypes, with other archetypes. So that's one of the elements of being human. We have this freedom on such a primordial level to allow something to soften in us, even when our reaction is to amplify it. And this tempering, for instance, of our impulses, it also uses the same kind of creative force. So we can let the force run wild, or we can purposefully echo that same kind of force in the direction of our wished becoming. Now start to wiggle and stretch your way back to center. And then you're going to come into the other banana, the strange banana at this point. So you take your left heel out to the left, hook your right heel over your left ankle, and then pull your right arm to the left. Take a full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh it out. Ah. You know, with a lot of these archetypal forces, we want to rein in our habit of judging things good or bad, right or wrong, useful, not useful. Because, like, for instance, with this Mars energy, like we can talk about like how, like, you know, and we know this, like when you're not reining in your impulses, like you can't go around like slugging people, or, you know, sleeping with whatever, or doing, like, it becomes destructive and violent. You need to like take that and be the counter to that, to bring balance into your relationships and your body. But the cool thing is that this same kind of this natural force, this impetus, is one that we can harness and actually echo. And when we do that, there's less of a need to follow the reactions or the unconscious impulses. When we have a conscious impulse, we're like directing ourselves to. And this is a little bit back to how, you know, with kindness, like we really have to direct how we're going to be kind in the present moment in this situation with this individual. Kindness can't be scripted or turned into government policy precisely. I mean, great. I would love government policy to be kind to everyone, but that's a little bit in our future. It's not quite the level we're at yet. You know, and the cool, like if you observe with a loving heart, even in politics, that is where a lot of impulse comes. Like there is this wish to like, well, if we make that the rule, then everyone will be kind. And it just doesn't quite work because we can't have this, you know, universal kind of law about something. We have to know that we can shape it and create it and be free in the moment to really find the right thing for every individual. But it is a resource of our humanity, kindness. And it's why the Dalai Lama says that is his practice, that is his religion, because it's that spirit, ephemeral soul forming force. It is what, you know, creates our karma, how we act. And even our words are an act. Now wiggle your legs back to center. If it feels balanced, if you need to take a beat and make it more balanced, that's cool. And then hug your knees in. And you're gonna roll up and lift up your face and kiss your knees. Thank you for being part of your human delightful package, connected to our livers as well. A liver, knees to one liver. And then relax your head back on the ground, bending your knees, slowly let your knees drop to your left. We're doing just a clearing twist. So we're not going to stay in here for the whole yin time. Just a couple of breaths. So take a full inhale. Maybe breathe in what's hard and challenging. And with your exhale, breathe out what feels good and what you want to share in the world. And then roll your knees back to center. Of course, you're welcome to throw in another kiss there. And then slowly let your knees drop to your right. So courageously, we're going to breathe in what hurts, what we don't like, what we're struggling with. And with our exhale, we're going to breathe out what we want to see more of in the world, what is our act of kindness right in this moment. Honoring that we are beings that change the things we meet. And then hug your knees back to center. Of course, if you have one more kiss that you need to deliver, you go, girl. You go, boy. You go, whoever you are. And then start to gather up your blankets, your sweaters, your socks, and your, I don't know, lavender eye pillows, whatever you need for your Shavasana. This final resting pose, or we could think of it as being Prometheus at night, where our liver grows back. So we come into Shavasana, arms next to our body, palms facing up, eyes closed, and body is soft and still. And you let your breathing return to normal. Feel the floor be the balance to the floor. While the floor is hard, you get to be soft here. With your next inhale, invite your breath to the edges of your body. Wiggle and sparkle your fingers and toes. You can even smile if you want. Feel how your breath and your attention bring the animation of life into you. Maybe stretch your arms above your head on your next inhale, wiggling your body long. And on your exhale, hug your knees to your chest. And roll onto your side if that's okay for you. Take a full breath. Feel your vibrancy and your vitality. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Allow your hands to meet at heart center. With your eyes closed, empty your breath first, and let's take a full inhale together. And just sigh it out. And then we're going to sound one final Om. Inhale. Ah. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love. Thank you for your work, your time, and attention.